Welcome to Crossroads. Chinese censorship is being enforced in America. While Congress is debating on whether to ban TikTok over its ties to the CCP and its threats to national security, well, the CCP has been expanding its roots through entertainment almost as a whole. Hollywood creates and edits many of the films we watch at the behest of Chinese censors. Chinese companies are buying up theater chains, talent houses, the list goes on. So what's really at work, and what are the CCP's interests in controlling entertainment? Well, I'm joined by Tiffany Meier, host of China in Focus and the new documentary Hollywood Takeover. For a special live Q&A, we're going to be talking in depth about the CCP's attempts to control and infiltrate America from all sides. So, Tiffany, welcome to Crossroads.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, so a quick note before we jump in. This is a live Q&A, so we're going to be taking questions from the audience, all of you. If you'd like to ask questions for Tiffany or I, we have a new format. Please go to EpochTV, EpochTV.com. Click on the Ask Questions banner under this video, and you can leave your questions there.
And for all those watching on China in Focus on YouTube, also head on over to Epoch TV so that we will answer your questions. Be fun.
Yeah, so Tiffany, you have a new documentary, Hollywood Takeover, which is China's control in the film industry. And I don't think I've seen a documentary on this before, actually. I mean, as far as I know.
That's why we did it.
Okay, there we go, right? Mystery solved. So, Tiffany, tell me about your documentary. Like, what made you want to do this?
Well, I think as you mentioned at the top, right, a lot of people maybe know about it, but it's never really been made into a documentary. And I think we take it a step further where we really delve into internal CCP documents that talks about how they see art as a tool and as a weapon, basically. So we have to fundamentally understand that difference, right? Whereas in the West, we're like, ooh, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of the arts, art for art's sake. There is none of that under communist rule. So from the very beginning, since Mao Zedong, right, he gave this secret speech in like 1842, and he was telling his people that, we have to turn the arts and literature as a tool to like revolutionize and to use it to overthrow our national enemy, which is the free world, or us, the US. And so that's like the very beginning. And then we see how throughout the years, right, because movies cost a lot. So after the financial crisis in America in 2008, that was also the year when Beijing had their Olympics. And the world was like, wow, maybe this is not a third world country, even though they still get those trade deals that.
Yeah, they kept the trade deal for a third world country, yeah.
But they're like, okay, maybe this is like a place of growth. And so a lot of studios started going there. But, since the beginning, China doesn't allow all movies in. They only allow a select few. And through the years, that number has gone up and then down again. But it's hard to get past the censors. So what happens is you want a piece of that massive market. Hollywood started doing everything it could to get into that, including changing the script. So we talk about Chris Fenton, who actually was a film executive and helped change Looper and Iron Man 3 so that they could get into the China market. And then throughout the years, we see how that's just snowballing to the point where I think the most famous recent case was Top Gun Maverick, where this is probably the most American patriotic movie you could imagine. People noticed in 2019 in the international trailer that, two patches on his jacket had disappeared. Instead of the Taiwanese and Japanese flags, they were random shapes because those are very sensitive topics to China. And then what was interesting is Tencent, this massive Chinese tech giant, was actually funding part of the film because Top Gun, everyone knew was going to be very expensive to make. But then because of this international outrage, it pulled out. And eventually, also with the pandemic, all studios had to be delayed. So then when the movie eventually came out, patches were back. It's very patriotic. It still doesn't explicitly say who the enemy is, though. So some are like, But anyways, it passed $1 billion globally without the China box office. So now you're seeing those changes. But basically what happened is you're seeing, because of the need and want of money, Hollywood started censoring everything. And so it was giving up free speech, human rights, all these different things that normally you would think America stands up for.
Well, and that's what kind of blows my mind is because, I love being an American. I wake up every day and I look in the mirror and I'm like, geez, I love being American. As I start my day. I love...
There's a flag wave in the background.
Yeah. But, I remember when I was a kid, there used to be more patriotic movies. It felt like films were more patriotic. We had war movies. We had movies that kind of made you feel like this country is something great. when I was reading the standards on films, because you don't see those types of movies hardly. I think Top Gun's the first one I've seen in a long time that had anything like that. And people maybe wonder why. Well, I was actually looking at some of the film censorship guidelines from the CCP. One of them, from what I've read, is they actually can't show the U.S. military in a positive light. And, you know, hey, if you're wondering why you haven't seen a patriotic war movie in a long time, maybe that's why. And I understand they also ban time travel, which
Yes.
ties into Looper. Could you tell, why do they ban time travel?
Yeah, well, this ties back to the Chinese regime's need of control. So it's hard enough controlling the present narrative, right? Now imagine you have to control the past and the future, how it's represented. So time travel is a taboo subject in China, or communist China. Very, very hard to control. But Looper is a film that's all about time travel. It's about these like people who like, anyways, originally, if you look at the original script, this character, his utopia, his future is France. And there's this scene where Gordon Levitt is the main character, and then Jeff Daniels comes in from the future, like his future self, and is like, hey, I'm from the future. You want to go to China. So that line has been changed.
Oh, interesting.
And then they also inserted Summer Ching, a Chinese actress. And so instead of marrying a French woman and going to France, right, he goes to China in the future and marries Summer Ching. So the script was entirely changed to try and placate the Chinese censors. And when that line, you want to go to China, like I'm from the future, you want to go there? When that line was tested, like all the test rooms they had it in, the audience was clapping. When they tested it with the Chinese communist censors, they were clapping. So they're like, oh yeah, we did something right. That's normally when you would know you did something wrong. But anyways, that was a great success for that movie. It went into China, did super well. And because of that, Marvel took notice. Marvel had a history of not doing well or getting anything into China, so they approached Chris Fenton and his firm and was like, hey, you know, Looper had maybe like $20-30 million as a budget. What can you do with like $200 million, something called Iron Man 3? But Marvel's very secretive. And so Chris Fenton and like one of his colleagues were literally like locked in a room for 90 minutes to read the entire script of Iron Man 3 and try and figure out what elements so that it could probably get past the Chinese censors and into that market, right? And so they added, if anyone's seen Iron Man 3, they added Dr. Wu, a Chinese scientist, because China likes to be seen as the world's innovators. It's probably all stolen technology, but you know, they like to be seen as the innovators of the world.
They innovate off the stuff they stole from us.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that part. And so this doctor character is inserted in to save the life of Tony Stark. Like, think about what message that's sending to you. Like, wow, this country is so ahead that they have the technology that can save the life of a superhero. Right? So that's like what's getting it. That movie did super well in China. In the film, you can see like the amount of profits that the first Iron Man's brought in, and then that one with the China market. And so because of all these different changes, you're seeing studios being like, oh my gosh, there's a ton of money to be made in China. Like actually, for instance, Pacific Rim was a film that had about a $190 million budget. And in the US, it made about $101 million, so it's losing money, right? This is in the US box office. But then the same movie went into the China market, and in China alone, made $111 million. So just by getting into the China market, it doubled its box office profits. So many studios are like, oh, like, it doesn't really matter if I don't do well in America. As long as I can get into that China market, I can turn a profit. But what does that mean, right? As you were mentioning, have to show the Chinese military in a good light, the American military in a bad light, to the point where when Red Dawn was remade, Red Dawn 2...
The original is one of my favorites,
Yeah, so when Red Dawn 2 came along, it was can't be the Soviet Union anymore, so the new communists coming and taking over America were the Chinese communists. But then, so this film was going to come out in 2011. By this point, China's growing as an economy and like a superpower. And so suddenly the Los Angeles Times had a report where MGM, the studio, was like, wait, we can't have China as the enemy. Like, we can't go poke that bear, right?
Yeah.
And so they spent $1 million to change all the flags, all the insignias, every little mention of communist China to North Korea. But to the point where even some of the characters in the film, because like when the scriptwriters were told they had to change it and everything, like they put those lines in there so the characters are like, North Korea? Like, why does North Korea want to take us over? Can they take us over, you know? So even the characters in the film are like self-aware that this is so weird. But this is 2012 when this movie came out. Since then, no major studio has released a film with China as the villain. And, you know, a lot of people might be like, oh, whatever, what does that matter? But that is changing the perception, right? Like when we think of the Cold War, we're like, oh, Soviet Union, the spies, right? It's like you have those images of those times in history. But now, because of the censorship coming out of China in general when it comes to news and everything, but now also in the soft power realm or the film realm, right? When you think of China, what do you think of? Right? It's really hard. You're not going to think of the crimes against humanity that are happening. You're not going to think of the people who are starving, the famines that happened, the manufactured famines that happened under Mao. None of that is covered. We still don't know the true death toll from that. The conservative estimates for that famine under Mao is 44 million. All those people. And no one talks about that, right? So it's like, instead, what's happening now is you're getting this whitewashed version. And given the current tensions that we are seeing between these two superpowers, it's getting to the point where it is very dangerous because you're seeing so many different aspects. You're mentioning at the top of the show, TikTok, right? There's that. TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance, tied to the CCP, all sorts of national security concerns there. You're seeing the Chinese nationals coming across the border. China has exit bans, so it's like, how did they get out of the country? Sure, some of them probably are true asylum seekers.
I've talked to some of them. They go to like Venezuela because they don't need a visa. So.
Yeah, but just to get out of China, though. So it's like, how did you get out? And then many are noting that they're military-aged men.
Hong Kong, they arrested a bunch of them trying to flee to Taiwan, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Freedom.
It didn't work for them, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? So it's like you're seeing all these different changes to the point where also now it's an election year, right? Many candidates, it was kind of interesting seeing the Republican Party when there was more than one candidate against Trump, right? You saw Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis trying to out-hawk each other on China. They're both already really hawkish on China, but it's gotten to the point where China is a focal point of this election. But then you think about the average Joe who goes to the movies to be entertained, right? You're not there with your guard up. You're there to be entertained. And then you're getting all these different things to the point where China just wants to control all of that. Like, so for instance, Black Adam, the superhero movie.
Terrible movie, by the way.
Yeah. It had one line that mentions the Dalai Lama kind of positively.
Okay, I take that back.
Make it into China.
Take that back. Okay, I take that back. Maybe they're okay. Yeah.
But that's the point, right? Like, China's even afraid of one line. Because if you have a hero or anti-hero, someone that mentions the Dalai Lama in a positive light, that's a no-no to them. But that's the level of control they want, not just over their own people, right? But over the whole world and how the world views them. So that's what's at stake here.
I mean, and that's what kind of blows my mind is, I mean, again, I'd say China is one of the only bipartisan issues we have in this country right now. It's whether, again, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis or Trump or even Biden, they will criticize the CCP to different degrees, to different degrees. But really, both sides of the aisle, a lot of the things against China, a lot of the bills and stuff, they tend to get pretty good bipartisan support. And you would think, actually, that Hollywood and entertainment would be like, hey, everybody sees the CCP as the big rising threat. We're all wondering if CCP is going to invade. You'd think they'd make movies on it. You'd think that entertainment would follow what people want, but they're doing the opposite. It's like propaganda central. And I think, what's interesting to me is when we started opening up trade with China, one of the thinkings in the US was, hey, it was a real simplistic view of capitalism, right? They were like, well, if we let them into the free market, they'll become less communist. Hey, a great idea. But what ended up happening was the CCP used its state controls and just extended them. And so it wasn't like Hollywood influenced China and changed it there. It's like they influenced Hollywood. It wasn't like our businesses went to China and made them more free. It's like the CCP put restrictions on our businesses. And so the CCP, through the open market, has found a way to spread its control and its laws outside of its own borders, and we've become less free because of it. Case in point, like Enes Kanter Freedom with the NBA, when he wrote, was it Free China on his shoes, he got punished for it. Like, they can kneel, when they're singing the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Or when they're singing the national anthem, they can kneel on the ground, that's okay. You can criticize America all you want, but you can't criticize, like, slave labor in China. How is that a thing, right? You can criticize America for, like, historical slavery, but you can't criticize current-day slavery in China. Like, what kind of a world are we living in? And so I think on another note too, real quick, those of you on Crossroads or YouTube or China in Focus on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, we're going to be continuing the rest of this discussion. We'll be talking about how the CCP uses entertainment as a tool for social control. How do they try to influence American society through culture war and leadership capture? But we're going to continue the rest of this only on Epoch TV. So please join us over there. We'll have the exclusive live Q&A. Tiffany and I will be answering questions from all of you. So if you'd like to ask questions, join us over on Epoch TV, EpochTV.com. Leave your questions there.
So for all those watching on China in Focus on YouTube, head on over to Epoch TV to keep watching and drop us those questions. And of course, you can also watch the documentary Hollywood Takeover on Epoch TV. So head on over.
It's a good documentary. I watched the whole thing, by the way. Yeah.
I'm flattered.
All right, folks, that said, here's a quick word from our sponsor. We'll jump over.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges. With a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold, you can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.